The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth wish to acknowledge that we are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the beautiful homeland of the MACY Nation.
Watch this.
The youth always like that intro music. Well, welcome back. We are here for Youth Engagement Live, episode
33.
33.
Oh,
wow.
we put 3 threes.
So just quick reminder, as always, we always put any links and descriptions in the video, anything helpful that we can provide for everybody that we talk about on today's episode. Just check out the video description and let's get right into it, I guess. So we're going to talk about the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article/Right number 2. You have the right to protection against discrimination.
Yeah, that's true. We do. So when you talk about protection against discrimination, that means that you have the protection when you're in education to not be bullied, to not be set apart from the rest of the classroom or the group or singled out. Same thing in sports. Sports is a big one. Organized sport. Where else would that play into? Even in families or homes or, for me, I think of a lot of rural areas, I'm sorry to say. It can happen anywhere though.
Yeah.
You know, in this time, people are under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But to be politically correct or aware of terminology, aware of understanding, it's going to tie right into our next call to the calls to action.
That's right.
And
yes.
talking about advancing reconciliation practices in a good way.
And I think with discrimination, so you have the right to protection against discrimination. For me, that falls a lot. As educators, as adults, as parents, teaching
culturally,
youth.
we say that inside the home, the parents are the first teachers of the children, and they're the longest teacher because of that connection throughout the whole life.
Yes.
And to be able to be good role models.
Well, because I fully believe, and again, just my belief is for discrimination and racism, these are things that as a child, you're not born with these concepts.
I agree. It's a learned behavior.
It's learned. And whether it's learned in the home or out of the home, it's not to blame just people in the home. It's definitely the parent's responsibility, the adult caregiver in the home. It's definitely anybody involved as a role model, as the youth, to really teach, in my opinion, teach that child or youth what it is and what's wrong about it as well.
That's right. And that's not only to say that it's the adult that has to do the correcting.
That's true.
A lot of times, kids that have been around healthier conversations around speaking up about the right thing to do, no, that's not right. I don't think that's, I think that I'm going to talk about that and being able to have that discussion, being able to understand that, no, you can't say words like that. That's not right.
Yeah. And you don't want to shy away from it.
That's right. Yeah. I've had lots of conversations with kids and, you know, it's good to just say, hey, let's explore that conversation. Like, why do you believe? And that's a good right. You did the right thing.
Yes.
Having those conversations gives them ability to become comfortable with dialogue around having conversations about tough things, being able to understand that those are things that you can't say, or those are things that are not allowed. And being able to have that dialogue so kids understand why we don't allow that.
And it's about keeping them safe. And I think, in my opinion, as well, with discrimination, it's an extension of another problem that we have been told by youth, in fact, of bullying in schools. You know, it's just bullying in schools is just an extension of discrimination against someone.
That's true.
So
And when you look at it, when we talk about one of the best teachings I've ever heard is how to put the shoe on the other foot, per se. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be different than everybody else, but it doesn't need to necessarily mean to say it's okay to be like everybody else. You really have to explore those conversations in ways that show that you have the ability to think.
Yeah.
You have the ability to have critical thinking and to understand like where do you stand or sit,
Yes.
how do you feel about these conversations, and where do you want to be when that's happening? Or if you're a part of that when it's happening, are you going to be strong enough to stand up and say, no, this is not right? Or are you just going to go along with the flow of the group?
See, and that's where the UNCRC comes into play for anybody watching. This is law, like this is something that Canada has signed on to, and it's been ratified. So it's essentially law here. You have the right to protection against discrimination, and everything that's entailed in that. So it isn't as simple as turning your cheek and looking the other way. Like, we all have this responsibility to protect children and youth from discrimination.
It's not a good feeling to be on the receiving end. I have myself at times in my life been on the receiving end. And on the other hand, I've also have to admit that I have been part of the other side and saying not nice things. But due to my behavior and action, my parents were able to sit me down, help me to understand. But you really need to have that. I was a youngster at the time. I'll say youngster. I was a teenager, and that's usually when a lot of the learning
Yeah.
for this kind of stuff takes place. But we have to be able to set those clear, concise boundaries, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, on the bus, wherever it is. You have to know that discrimination, racism is not acceptable,
Yes.
and it's not necessary. It's a learned behavior.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us, let's talk to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission call to action number 54. And I'm using this book here, Answering the Calls, A Child's View of 94 Calls to Action. It was provided to us from the Winnipeg School Division. It was created by a bunch of youth in Winnipeg schools that read the calls to action and then simplified them so they're not so wordy. So number 54, in their words, provide funding and resources required to advance reconciliation.
And yesterday was a big day for youth across Manitoba, and being able to receive some of that funding. So
Yes.
there'll be more programming available, there'll be more resources available. And to understand and advance reconciliation, that's a process that is ongoing. And it's not just read it. There's 7 steps to it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to be able to all the way to atonement, and then being aware is the last one, to be able to go through and always be able to say, okay, I know that. And it'll come up numerous times in your conversations at work, on the bus, just different situations that happen, to be able to understand the history of what has happened here in Canada and around the world. It's not just a Canada issue.
And you know what I think when you're advancing reconciliation, we have to look at it as an ongoing process, like you're saying. It's not a checklist where we check off boxes and
one action and I'm
and
done.
it's done, right? Yeah, it's an ongoing, process, and it's something, again, when you're advancing reconciliation, because of, you're acknowledging a lot of the wrongs that were done in Canada. That's also helping to protect against future generations and future possible discrimination and racism. So that's where we're tying in the UNCRC to the calls to action here today about advancing reconciliation and the process involved.
That's right. So one of the other things before our time's up today, I just wanted to make a mention to the media world, the outside world, outside this room, who's ever going to watch and hear this. I'm just going to take my glasses off. I'm having a hard time breathing. So one of the things that we've been told at the spiritual level, and as a knowledge keeper, I feel that it's my duty to share this knowledge and information that's been said from the CheeseCon, which is the shaking tent. That's the top ceremony where we go to get our answers. And so I was privileged to be able to share some of that knowledge that was coming from the shaking tent. And what we were told by the elders through translation was that we need to understand this pandemic in a way that, yes, it's here, yes, it's serious, but we're focusing on the wrong part. We're focusing on the death and the count. We should be focusing on smaller circles, our families, our own little bubbles to be able to get through. Yes, we still have to wear masks. Yes, we still have to social distance. Stay home if you're sick and wash your hands continuously. Those are still things that the spiritual world has acknowledged, but they're also saying that our mental health is starting to suffer. One of the things that the elders told me in translation was that our people have been here since time immemorial. We've suffered a great deal through residential schools, through plights, through infestation of the blankets. And to be able to understand that our people have stood strong in all of this, regardless of where we are, regardless of what we're doing, we're still Anishinaabe, we're still Indigenous to this province, this country. We have to be able to understand that we have gifts. We have the natural plant world to help us. There's medicines there. They're asking us to be able to boil water, cedar, to have juniper in our homes, to be able to make. The first thing he said that stuck with me is that when you get up in the morning, you go outside and you offer tobacco and you say thank you. You say thank you for your life and the life of your loved ones, your community, your nation, and that's what's going to get us through. We have to start focusing on the right things because this is not going to be the end of us, but it's going to take some time and some blind faith. Blind faith is what has gotten us through all the traumas and tribulations of Indigenous history here in Canada. For everyone that is listening and for everyone, it doesn't matter whether you're Indigenous, we're all of the human race. To be able to understand that you can go outside and say thank you. You can pray at any time. They're waiting, they're hearing us. I'm getting these cloths ready. I am going to the bush today to pick more cedar because the snow, this little heat wave has given us another opportunity to make the best of not having to trudge through the snow to the bush to get our medicines. So I'm going out to make some cloth offerings, some wabanos. And then I'm going to be able to take the time to pick that medicine for our staff, for our youth, for our families, the community, the people that need it. There's people in the communities that are helping to pick that medicine. We were given gifts, so we're to use them in a good way and to be able to share. So I say miigwech for being able to share that today, that our mental health really has to be taken care of. We have to have that self-care and kindness for ourselves and each other. You know, our words are being able to rest, being able to eat, and just share good thoughts. How can we share good thoughts if we're struggling ourselves? So I like to just lighten it up with a little bit of humor. Humor has always been able to give us a good break from the things that they don't change things, but they give us that ability to release those serotonin and endorphins in our body to be able to kind of reset our mood. Drinking water is very important to be able to have that energy in our muscle tone. I know this time change has really done a number on me. So I'm looking to be able to spend some time in the bush. As Indigenous people, that's one of our go-tos, to be able to understand that we have so many gifts on the land, on Mother Nature has provided for us. So to be able to understand that we just have to be able, even if we're in the city, to go outside to a clean place and offer our tobacco or pick some cedar, some juniper, to be able to help yourselves boil it for that humidity, to be able to have it in your house, in your home. That's helping with these respiratory illnesses that we have. So I say miigwech for being able to share that little bit of knowledge and to be able to offer that tobacco. For so many youth and our people that we work here in the office, our staff, I say miigwech and being able to share that, and we will see you again next week.
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and hope you walk away from this with some knowledge. I certainly have. Anytime I get to sit and listen to Cheryl, so thank you.
Miigwech.